Hey everyone, welcome to How to Debate and Argue Confidently in English. I am so excited to dive into this topic today because it's such a vital skill for anyone learning the language.
Indeed, we're going to explore how to express your opinions and engage in discussions, even disagreements, with conviction and grace. It's about building confidence to articulate your thoughts clearly without ever sounding aggressive, which is particularly useful for our intermediate learners.
So, once we've welcomed everyone, let's dive into the absolute foundation of any good debate or argument building a strong argument. It's not just about having an opinion, it's about presenting it clearly.
Precisely. Think of it like constructing a building. You wouldn't just stack bricks randomly, would you? You need a blueprint, a structure. In an argument, this means starting with your main point or your claim, then supporting it with solid reasons, and finally, a clear conclusion.
Exactly. We like to break it down into a simple claim, reason, evidence approach. It makes it super easy to follow, both for you and for the person you're speaking with. So, your claim is what you believe to be true, it's your main statement.
And then the reason explains why you believe your claim is valid. It's the because part of your argument. Without a reason, your claim can sound quite arbitrary.
Right, and the evidence, which we'll talk about more later, is the proof that backs up your reason. So you state your claim, you explain why with a reason, and then you show proof. It keeps things incredibly clear and helps prevent misunderstandings. Okay, so once you have your argument structured, let's talk about something equally important: how to disagree politely. Because arguing isn't about shouting, it's about a respectful exchange of ideas.
Precisely. It's an art, really, especially in English where direct disagreement can sometimes sound quite abrupt. We want to avoid being confrontational, even when our opinions differ greatly.
Exactly. So instead of just saying, no, you're wrong, which can shut down a conversation, try phrases like, I see your point, however, or I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure I completely agree. This acknowledges their perspective before you introduce your own.
Absolutely. You might also partially agree before stating your difference. For instance, I agree with you up to a point, yet I also believe that, or that's a valid perspective, though I tend to think these phrases create a bridge rather than a wall between your opinions.
And if you want to soften it even further, you can add a question at the end to invite discussion, like, don't you think? Or what are your thoughts on that? It keeps the conversation flowing and shows you're open to hearing more. It's all about maintaining that respectful tone. So once you've made your claim and given a reason, what really makes your argument powerful is supporting it with evidence.
Absolutely. Without evidence, a claim is just an opinion, isn't it? Adding facts, statistics, or real world examples makes your argument much more credible and convincing. It moves your point from, I think, to this is why.
Exactly. It's like building a house. You need strong foundations. Evidence is that strong foundation. For example, if you're arguing that recycling is important, you could say, studies show that recycling significantly reduces landfill waste and greenhouse gas emissions. That's much stronger than just saying recycling is good.
Indeed, and when introducing evidence, it's good to use phrases that signpost what you're doing. You could say, according to recent research, or, for instance, consider the case of, or a good example of this is.
Yes, those are great ways to smoothly bring in your evidence. You don't want it to feel forced. The goal is to make your argument more robust, not just to list facts. Make sure the evidence directly supports your reason. Okay, so we've talked about making strong arguments, but sometimes you don't want to sound too absolute, right? That's where hedging language comes in.
Precisely. Hedging language is all about softening your claims. It's using phrases that show flexibility, a bit of uncertainty, or that you're open to other interpretations. It makes your argument sound less aggressive and more like an invitation to discussion.
Exactly. Instead of saying, this is wrong, you might say, I tend to think this might not be the most effective approach. Or instead of, everyone believes this, you could say, it seems many people hold the view that.
Indeed, common hedging phrases include it appears that, it could be argued that, perhaps, it's likely that, I'd suggest that, or even to some extent. Using these shows that you've considered nuances and aren't presenting your view as the absolute, undeniable truth. It's a very polite way to maintain your position while still being open.
Okay, so we've built our argument, we can disagree politely, and we're using evidence. What about when someone throws a curveball at you, a counter-argument?
Excellent point. A good debater doesn't just present their own case, they also anticipate what the other side might say. Think of it as playing chess. You're thinking a few moves ahead.
Exactly. It helps you prepare mentally and you won't be caught off guard. So, how do we acknowledge another person's point of view before we give our own rebuttal?
Well, there are some very useful phrases for this. For instance, you could say, I understand what you're saying about X, however, I believe Y. Or, while it's true that A, it's also important to consider B.
Oh, I like that. It shows you've listened and respected their point, but you're still ready to present your own. It's like saying, I hear you, and here's my perspective.
Precisely. Another good one is, I can see why you might think that, but my view is slightly different because. This approach makes your counterargument less confrontational and more persuasive. It maintains that respectful tone we've been talking about.
Okay, so we've talked about all these great techniques, but what happens when the discussion gets a bit intense? How do we keep our cool?
That's an excellent point. It's crucial to remember that a debate isn't about winning at all costs, but about exchanging ideas. If you feel emotions rising, take a pause. Sometimes just a few seconds of silence can reset the tone.
Absolutely. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, try rephrasing what the other person said to ensure you understand. Like, so if I'm understanding correctly, you're saying, this shows you're listening and gives you a moment to compose yourself.
Precisely, and always try to focus on the points being made rather than getting personal or emotional. Phrases like, let's stick to the issue at hand, or my intention here is to discuss the topic, not to argue personally, can be very effective in de-escalating. It keeps the conversation productive.
So, to quickly recap everything we've covered today for confident and respectful debating, remember the importance of structuring your arguments clearly with a main claim, strong reasons, and solid evidence.
Absolutely. And do practice using those polite phrases for agreeing or disagreeing respectfully. Incorporate hedging language to soften your points, and always try to anticipate and respond calmly to counterarguments.
Exactly. The key now is to take these strategies and start using them. Look for opportunities in your daily English conversations to practice structuring your thoughts and expressing yourself respectfully.
That's right. The more you practice, the more natural these techniques will become.
Well, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to How to Debate and Argue Confidently in English. We really hope these tips help you feel more empowered.
Indeed. Remember, as with any skill, consistent practice is key to mastering these debate techniques. Don't be afraid to try out the phrases and strategies we've discussed today in your daily conversations.
Absolutely. Keep learning, keep practicing, and keep building that confidence. We're so excited to see your English skills grow.
We look forward to having you join us again for our next episode. Until then, keep an eye out for opportunities to practice your debating skills respectfully.
See you next time.